So the big question is this: how are those in the self-storage industry like us going to be successful in today's market? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jim Ross, and welcome to the Self-Storage Show.
Hi, everyone. This is Jim Ross with the Self-Storage Show. I got Paul Moore back with me again. We talked briefly. We just met a few weeks ago, and that first interview was so awesome. I wanted to bring you back and talk some more.
Man, it's an honor. Thanks for bringing me back on, Jim.
It's someone that's been that educated and been through storage and, going what you've done with these investments and then writing the book, and that kind of stuff. And then as we were chatting after our last podcast, you're like, hey, I got some case studies we could talk about. I'm like, anytime I can hear more some real world results, the better. I'm all in, and everyone that tunes in, it brings a lot of value. So I'm glad you're able to book me your time and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's do it.
Cool. Well, jump right in, man.
Okay, so our company, Wellings Capital, invests with professional syndicators, operators of self-storage. We're not the operator ourselves because we try to give our investors a diversified portfolio across self-storage and other asset types. And so one of our favorite operators is based in Nevada, and he was calling on a family in Texas who had a self-storage facility in a small town of Beeville, Texas. And it's a 607 unit facility, which you might think is a little large for a town of 12,000. But we've seen much more extreme than that. We have a 1,500 plus unit self-storage in Ishpeming, Michigan, a town of 3,000, and it's killing it. It's absolutely crushing it. But that's another story. So but when he called, so he's got a team of people calling all the time. They're calling, owners of self-storage. And the goal, of course, is to catch them right about the time that they want to sell, just like those little cards you get in the mail that say, do you need new windows? Of course I don't, 99 times, for 99 years straight, but the day you need them, right? So he happened to call them right when they were really desperate to sell. It turns out, as sad as this may sound, the parents had passed away. And the 5 kids were not property managers. They didn't hire a professional property manager, which was a huge mistake. So these 5 kids were running this storage facility into the ground, from what we understand. And so he flew out there very quickly, and he acquired the storage facility for a fair price of $2.4 million, 607 units. And that was about an 8% cap rate. And, again, there was just a ton of stuff that was not right with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So the rates were way under market. The occupancy was low. From what I understand, there was no website and very little, if any, marketing. And so what they did is they paid all cash just to buy it real quickly. They found out in the process, by the way, that this was apparently on the market with a local residential broker for 5.5 million. But anyway, they bought it for, like I said, 2.4 million cash, had about 10% serious delinquency, 81% occupancy, bloated expenses, just a lot of things that weren't right. So they immediately set up, marketing, started doing, like getting rid of the bad tenants. This is one thing I love about self-storage. When run right with a great property manager, you've got a leverage on the lever on their stuff. It's not like an apartment where they skip out and leave it trashed. They've got their stuff inside this unit. And so they started, getting rid of those delinquent tenants through auctions and through, getting them paid up.
Yeah.
They increase, what's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they increased the rates. They increased the marketing. They increased the occupancy. And in about, Jim, this is so amazing. In 3.5 months, they got an appraisal. They bought it for 2.4, which is a fair price. They got an appraisal in 3.5 months for 4.6 million.
Oh,
now they put 2 million, right? And so they put 2 million in debt on that at that time. Now think about this. You might say 2 million in debt on a $2.4 million purchase. That's 83% leverage. Well, that would have been an 83% LTC, loan to cost, but the LTV, loan to new value, was only like 43%. So it was actually quite a safe bet. Well, the operator held this for about 2 more years, and then he sold it for that same price, the appraised price of 4.6, no brokerage commission. The IRR to the investors was 70.5%. And the invested capital multiple was 4.6x. And of course, that's the blended average of the invested 2.4. And then of course, 400, 500,000 or whatever that was left in after the debt was added.
Yeah.
And so that basically means if you put 100,000 into this deal and left it in, you would have got 460,000 in less than 2 years.
2 years.
So pretty sweet deal, pretty amazing testament to the difference, but the same asset, same population in Beeville, Texas, great, poor versus great property management, right?
Oh, it makes all the difference in the world, because, a good property manager is looking at it and they know what levers to pull to get the better revenue. And then really just comes down to operations on what you can tighten up and the expenses and what you just outlined in that quick case study as far as the delinquencies and getting those in line. That's the number one thing I can see. And I'll look at a management summary report for a company.
Yeah.
I can just look at that one number and go, you're being mismanaged.
Yeah.
That's the number one glaring fact that comes out that screams at you when you're looking at the numbers.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And if you do it right and just do what you need to do as far as going through those collections, you can turn the side around fairly quickly, as you just demonstrated.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You want to hear another one?
Please. Yes.
So we actually did due diligence on both of these in person. I mean, we went out to see this one in Colorado, actually a little bit later, but we invested in, we were the largest investor in that one in Texas, by the way. I'm the largest investor in the second one in Colorado Springs. The acquisition team targeted this facility in 2017, had about 100,000 square feet of self-storage, and then another, I think it was almost another 100,000 square feet of unused, did you hear that? Unused warehouse space behind it. And also a nice 32,000 square foot retail space as well. And so we began calling on this, our operating partner began calling on them in 2017. They didn't want to sell. 2018, they didn't want to sell. 2019, the owner realized that his property manager, and again, I don't want to say a whole lot publicly, but apparently wasn't doing the best job of managing this property. Let's put it that way. And so the owner was kind of alarmed when he realized that. And he didn't want to go about like finding a new property manager for whatever reason. He just wanted to sell it. And of course, the rising tide has lifted all boats, and the value had gone way up since when he purchased it, even with the situation he was in. So he sold it for $10.95 million. Now it consisted of 878 storage spaces, including parking, like paid parking spaces like RV and boat storage. 32,000 square foot retail box. And it turns out, I just looked at it, was 90,000 square feet of storage space in a warehouse that was unused. So the first thing the team went in and did is they increased occupancy from 78% to 90% quite quickly. That generated about 22,000 additional annual net operating income. Second, they increased the rental rates and about 8%. That's not a whole lot, but that was like right off the bat. From 69,000, that generated about 69,000 a year in additional net operating income.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got occupancy and we've got rates, and those together generated 91,000 a year in net operating income. Let's take a second and pause. I mean, they did that quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do 91,000. If you have a calculator, Jim, I don't have it in front of me, and I don't want to multitask here. But let's just assume that the cap rate was very conservatively 6% on this, the value, okay? So the value formula in commercial real estate is the value equals the net operating income divided by the cap rate. And so if you take the 91,000 that they just generate, okay, let's add one more. They also decreased operating expenses by 15,000 annually. Okay, so now we've got $106,000 divided by 6% cap rate, 0.06. What does that come out to, Jim?
I don't know. Let me pull it up real quick.
All right, I'll let you do that while I tell
I know,
you
I mean,
what they worked on.
Because
if I multitask, we're gonna have this big dead air, and you guys are gonna fire me and hate Jim and not listen anymore and all that stuff. So 105, what did I say? 106,000 divided by 0.06 cap rate. What's that?
gosh, basically 1.8.
Okay, so they just added
Whew.
about 16-17% to the value of the facility by good property management overnight. Okay, they just added about $2 million almost to the value of the facility. Then the big home run came. They went out with a broker and they actively tried to rent that warehouse space. Well, they divided it up into several spaces and they were able to lease it for $50,000 a month, which comes out to about $600,000 annually. Okay. So adding 600,000 at a 6% cap rate, I think, what is that? Doesn't that add like 10 million to the value?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah.
So we just added 12
like
million
bonus.
to the value.
That was just bonus money.
It was bonus money. And again, this is what happens when you can find a large, centrally located mom and pop run facility. And again, not run by a professional property management. Yeah. And so then they sold off the retail, and the retail sold off, I can't remember the amount, but I think it was like $1 million for the retail they sold off, the retail box. And so basically now they gave the investors back our money. Like I said, we're the largest investor. They refinanced from like a 6% interest rate down to like a 3.2% 10-year fixed interest rate. This is a couple of years ago. Yeah, actually, that was actually only about a year ago. 3.32% interest only for 10 years, which generates an additional $240,000 a loan. And now we've got our money back and it's cash flowing about $51,000 a month. And the value, the current unofficial appraised value is right what you'd expect, about $23 million. And so this is, we're cash flowing about 21%. You could say it's infinite return on investment. You could say it's a 21% on our additional invested dollars. So we originally projected an IRR, internal rate of return, which is sort of an annual return metric. It's kind of a complicated number, but we originally projected 32% and a 2.2 multiple on invested capital. Instead, now we're revising that to be a 47% IRR and a 3.7x return on invested capital, assuming a 4-year hold period, which would mean we would end up, selling it next fall, a year and a half from the time of this recording. So that's another case study. What do you think of that, Jim?
It's just mind blowing when you see that. I'm putting myself in the position of a lot of people that are listening to this are kind of are newer to storage. A lot of times, they're out there trying to find these deals, and this is what we're talking about: is these kind of things. When even now, even a lot of these sites, they're going for a lot of money for a lot of these locations. But if you know what you're doing, you buy it, and you know what kind of levers to pull, and what kind of do to increase that revenue and decrease expenses, and just manage this property's way to be properly managed, you can still make a great return on investment on these storage businesses. I'm just bringing that up because I hear all the time of people are calling going, these are great, but I'm having a hard time finding, some of these locations. It's worth it though. If you can find it and find the right one like this, what we're talking about. Yeah. Amazing. That it really is. The turnaround you can do.
Yeah, it's true.
And they're still out there. I'm not going to dark cloud for everybody. They're still out there. It's got to be, probably you have to be a little more diligent maybe in the years past in finding some of these deals. But you mentioned at the very beginning, just being consistent and just being out there and kind of being top of mind when, hey,
Yeah.
maybe they didn't want to sell last year, maybe they didn't want to sell last week, but maybe today they're looking to sell.
That's right.
You
Well,
know?
think about this. There are about 54,000 self-storage facilities in the US. That's about the same as Subway, McDonald's, and Starbucks combined, folks.
Yeah.
And about half of those are owned by single asset operators. And a lot of them already know, because they're getting offers, they already know that the value of their facility has effectively doubled just because of the rising tide in the last decade. And so they don't have to make these changes. They don't have to, go out and add all these bells and whistles. They don't have to get professional property managers in their mind, because they're already doing so well. They can just sell, and hopefully one of you will be their buyer and the one that can make numbers like this happen for you and your family and your investors.
Yeah, it's so it's just eye-opening when you start putting a value and putting a cap on it, like we were just talking about. That's one thing of like, oh, I increased my revenue by, $1,000 this month. Well, yeah, you put a 6 cap on that, and it's real money. It's
real money.
It's crazy. And I started doing that, but I've been talking with owners because, again, property management. Hey, I'm a hired gun. That's what I do. Is I go in and I help these owners pull those kind of levers to get this revenue up like that.
Right.
But I started doing that. When I was talking with them, I'd be like, okay, this is how much money we're going to increase by doing these rate increases. And, maybe this month was like $800 that we did. But I would show them, and I'd do the value, and I would put a 6 cap on it and be like, now this is increasing the value of your property this much. And you start kind of seeing the light bulbs going off. I'm like, yeah, and there's so many little things like that we can do to really open people's eyes of how much value you can add to a lot of these locations.
Right.
It may not be these, I don't know, having a 50,000 square foot warehouse that was just sitting there. That doesn't happen very often. That was pretty lucky, but they are out there. I just dealt with the site just literally 2 months ago that we just brought on in North Carolina, and it was a school. It's kind of weird, but it was a school, and inside here's a big gymnasium, and that's what they're in the middle of doing right now. We're converting that to storage, and that space wasn't even talked about in the listing. It was like found space. So yeah. I'll double up your story. They're out there.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, I'm sure I'm winking when I say this. My competitive book on self-storage, I wrote Storing Up Profits, which I don't have handy. AJ Osborne wrote this amazing book on self-storage. And AJ, we all know the story, but if you don't, he took a super Kmart in Reno, Nevada. He sold off the parking lot to apartment developers. So he only had $2.5 million cash left in it, $5 million in debt. He cut the building in half to make much more exterior, drive up space, from what I understand. And he converted into a beautiful self-storage. Like I said, he had $7.5 million total in it. He's turned down offers for over $30 million now for that facility. And he only had $2.5 million in, cash in it. So it's like a 10x return on his cash or something.
That's crazy.
And he's turned them down.
Yeah. He's a smart dude. He's doing it for a reason. He knows what he wants. That's fantastic. Well, speaking of books, we gotta end our segment. You gotta plug your own book.
I know what happened to my book. I don't know where it went, but anyway, it's called Storing Up Profits: Capitalize on America's Obsession with Stuff by Investing in Self-Storage. It's put out by BiggerPockets Publishing in November 2021. And so you can get that at biggerpockets.com/storage, or of course on Amazon.
Perfect. I'll make sure I have links for that, and the links to reach out to you. People have any more questions, some follow-up items. And all right, we're 2 for 2. We might have to do another one here coming up. This has been great, Paul.
Man, it sure has. Thanks so much, Jim.
All right, take care. See ya.
You bet.
As a thank you for watching and listening, I'd like to give you the most incredible free gift ever, designed to increase your leads, rentals, and revenue for your self-storage business. It's called the Ultimate Self-Storage Management Playbook, and it contains courses, past summits, my book, and so much more. You can get all of this for free right now at 3milestorage.com. That's the number 3 milestorage.com.